What happened to Hoenn? How did it become a divided region, haunted by memories of its former glory? A gloomy place, teeming with fierce Pokemon. We need somebody to mend what's left of Hoenn. We need to have a successful Nuzlocke in our region as well. Otherwise, we'll be just as bad as Johto. My son, you must be victorious. You are our last hope.
I was a boy with a dream, born with a goal too grand. Many believed that uniting the Hoenn region was an impossible task, but my ambitions cared not for the opinions of the weak and gullible. I was a courageous Pokemon trainer, un combatte davvero. Together with Camillo, I aimed to achieve the impossible. It wasn't a challenge without obstacles, for there were those, like May, who profited from the political crisis that had torn the people of my homeland apart. Battle them I would, hoping to connect all routes from Littleroot to Evergrande, and establish a government with a strong national pride, and more importantly, build a big Nuzlocke community.
My journey got off to a good start. People were interested in financing our venture, and Giuseppe and Mazzini were willing to lend us their brave hearts. Although my team was growing strong, there were those like Vittorio that didn't want to put the work needed to restore the Hoenn region. And in the world where people wanted nothing more than to cripple my ambitions, I could not afford to train Pokemon that weren't interested in battle. So as soon as I got to Rosborough, I traded Vittorio for another Pokemon. Rosborough was a city-state that had Pokemon that were not built like the ones I had. This fighting type had a garbage bag as a head, but more importantly, people here used different naming systems for their Pokemon. Thus, Makit, Ninit, and Wit joined the team. I didn't mind their odd names, for I envisioned my homeland to be a celebration of all cultures within Hoenn. Having a team of 6, I confidently began my assault on Rosborough, though I needed only Camillo to take care of those that opposed my will. Before I left, I established a provisional government and appointed Roxanne to indoctrinate the youth. Surely there were those whose interests weren't aligned with mine, and they paid the price for disobedience. After I took care of my ideological enemies hiding in the woods, I bent my steps to Duford, and my followers grew in size. Bismarck was added to the team for the sake of diversity, making my roster consist out of minions from 3 different parts of Hoenn. Conquering Duford was a challenge indeed, and sadly, tactical sacrifices were needed so that Giuseppe and Mazzini could live long enough to face Brawley. Funnily enough, Brawley didn't even challenge us to a battle, yet he claimed that he was locked up in here for being my supporter. A wise decision, for we both knew what would have happened had he tried to oppose me. But I wanted to entrust no coward to protect this part of Hoenn, which is why I named Stephen the protector of this island instead. Having Duford under my command enabled me to easily gain control of the western waters and to march back to the mainland to continue my campaign. The people of Slateport were no threat to my warriors. The disgraceful bunch had even sent their children to the battlefield. I didn't kill any children, but Camillo grew a hair whip to slap naughty kids on the rear. After a couple of beatings, the children learned their lesson. Infrastructure investments have a powerful multiplier effect. They enhance accessibility and facilitate trade, improve mobility, generate greater employment opportunities, and boost overall economic productivity. Though, if not implemented properly, they can cost the lives of some construction workers as well. But no one cared for the lives lost. Our investors were getting richer, Giuseppe was making groundbreaking scientific discoveries, and the free market was guiding us to victory with its invisible hand. Truly, we were not only uniting our lands, but also reforming them. No society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which the far greater part of its members are poor and miserable. Oh, how great it was! Mazzini was jolly, and why wouldn't he be? Nothing contributes so much to the prosperity and happiness of a country as high profits. The siege of Mobile was the longest and bloodiest campaign to date. Giuseppe was cutting down enemy lines, and in hindsight, I seemed to have developed a habit of healing Pokemon when I should have switched them. Just as Camilla was about to smack May's Tushy, she ran away, leaving us to bite our way through to Mobile. We were tired and exhausted, unprepared for enemies that rolled death and despair at us. Someone had to die, so the rest could live long enough to tell the tale of a united Hoenn. I left Ricardo to watch over our newly established base, as the rest of us risked our lives and hope blossomed. In theory, our supporters were becoming extreme. Some even said that the main issue in Hoenn is overpopulation, and that we need to kill both people and Pokemon to solve our problems. Small wonder I fished up a Goldeen, for different perspectives were needed to find a common ground that would benefit the entire region. Need I remind you that we haven't conquered Mobile yet? Loved ones were separated. Poverty, malnutrition, and diseases spread around, and it seemed that we were going to lose the battle. Hearing how I took Watson's grandchild as a hostage made the ruler of Mobile attack us with everything he's got. In this fight I didn't display the brightest of tactics, but I had potions, and so did Watson. After a while, Camilo took down Magnemite, and the death of Malthus served to prove the immorality of my enemies. Magneton was really scary, and I healed up Smith, hoping that he would be able to take that monster down. Sadly, Smith was not ready for such an undertaking, but potion-equipped Camilla was. I won, Watson was hanged, and slowly but steadily, our region was getting sewed back together. Our accomplishments were televised, and the religious North was willing to join us without any opposition. Our hearts were open, loving, and forgiving. We were ready for spiritual enlightenment. Since Christianity was a predominant religion, we asked Father to join our cause. Hoenn was a melting pot of ideas, though Marxism was not needed, so we compromised with the religious folk and grew stronger because of it. Twice. Things were looking good, until the local prophet said these words to me. "Everyone's replaceable," she said to me before adding, "Camilo, you're good, but I'm waiting for you to be great." The prophet was obviously intoxicated, so I paid no mind to her words. Had she been a real one, she'd already know that I am the state, that after me, nothing but a flood would remain. Archie agreed, and we finally had the Holy Trinity, making me decide that Christianity would be the sole religion in my newly established state. Though I disliked the Orthodox Church, so we slaughtered anyone who wasn't Catholic. Sadly, Archie was a problem. Despite being my supporter, he was leading an organization called Team Mabui, making me suspicious that he was a Cantonian spy. After killing most of his rivals, he agreed to change the name of his organization to Team Hegel to honor my Gyarados. I was pleased, so I became slightly less severe towards those of foul worship, and I allowed atheists to join my cause as well. It was time to bribe the Pope and buy forgiveness. The Pope was impressed by my worship and bank account as well, so we were pardoned for our sins. Being a Catholic is easy when you have power and money. The elders loved us as well. Their friendship elevated us towards new heights, and carrying all presents we have received made us stronger. We were ready to add Petalburg to our growing unity, but we had to get rid of its foul leadership. This city-state was run by a brother of a felon that brought instability to Hoenn 45 years ago. We focused our energy before exchanging critical blows. I gave atheist energy roots, but since no deity favored it for its lack of worship, Vigoroth landed multiple critical hits before it was struck down. Atheist and I were not pleased with all the crits the opposing Pokemon were landing, but in the end it all turned out okay since Lady Luck aided us as well. Needless to say, Wally, son of Norman, was hanged. Engels joined the team, and we imprisoned the rest of our political enemies. Not wanting to be overshadowed by those whose heart lacked worship, Jesus evolved, though I had to box him since I accidentally overleveled him. Thus, Magnemite took its spot on the team. Stephen, the protector of Duford, had betrayed us, so we had to put down his rebellion. Brawley's father kindly reminded me that it was a mistake not to entrust this part of my lands to his son, and after he gave me some money for my cause, I decided to grant Brawley the right to govern these lands. Angles evolved, and I finally had an airplane that I could start using as soon as I take command over Hoenn's airspace. Before I would do that, I had hoped to punish Stephen for his betrayal, but the backstabber was elusive. Time to add the eastern lands to my territories and catch Stephen that had always slithered away without a battle. Only one person can rule this region, not fleeing Stephen, not May the non-believer. Solely I could unite Hoenn. Only I could save our mighty land. Fortree did not have a lot of strong enemies, and after taking control of the region's airspace, nothing could stop me. We were a force to be reckoned with, and many more joined our cause. I liked the eastern parts of Hoenn, and May, well, turns out she liked me. Not liked me, but loved me. I never considered her to be the one to bear the honor of giving me an heir, so I went back home to ask Mom what she thought about it. I had her blessing, and Camilla evolved as I celebrated my engagement. I was successful in not only warfare and politics, but in love as well. Though I didn't know whether May loved me for who I was, or just because I became influential. She did try to kill me on multiple occasions. Had love clouded my mind? I didn't know, so I went to the graveyard to visit my father's grave, hoping to get a peace of mind. I was ready for marriage. I loved the woman. I even bought her flowers. All that everyone talked about was how May and I were going to be great rulers. But before I would get married, I had to eradicate Team Hanabi. I could not have their schemes ruin my wedding day and make my reign decay. Unfortunately, Maxie managed to get away, but I promised to kill him as soon as possible. I really hated disobedient children, but not as much as Camilo. After he had grown up, his beatings were far more severe. We didn't have as much enemies as we used to. Everyone joined our cause without opposition. The people of Moss Deep even imprisoned Stephen for me. He was to be tried for crimes against the people of Hoenn, at the end of which he would most definitely be killed. I was pleased with prolonging his suffering, and I dived around to find the shiniest pearl for my darling May. I could not wait to kill this prick, but Camerupt took upon itself this awful man's sins and died instead. Maxie was, if anything, moved by this display of pure worship and love. Stephen had managed to break out of prison and rally up the homosexuals against me, but I quickly dealt with them by promising the lot basic human rights, like the right to get married. Wallace dropped on his knees and proposed to me. May was not happy about it. She took my Pokemon and slaughtered all that wanted to sleep with me, and there were a lot of them. Before our wedding ceremony in Evergrande, she returned my Pokemon and I was in shock. Atheist was dead. How could she do this to me? Atheist was my beloved Pokemon. He did nothing wrong. I was seriously considering leaving her at the altar after that. Love prevailed, and on my wedding day, I had 6 bodyguards with me at all times. A lot of uninvited guests came to my wedding. Buddha served them hot meals, but Engels was not as nice. The intruders were lucky that most of them were found by Buddha. Bismarck was the most pragmatic bodyguard. He simply sent the intruders back home. Sexy ladies wanted to seduce me. Biting their lips, they tried to force me to be intimate with them. Hegel thought that I should fool around with them, whereas Camilla whipped them. Buddha provided the girls with warm comfort before Camilla disciplined the naughty ladies. Though Camilla did not drive away the cougars. Buddha was getting tired of improper women, and he allowed Engels to do what he does best. A lot of elderly women wanted me to buzz them, but Engels lusted for blood, and Buddha melted away the women's broken hearts. A pirate tried to assassinate me, and this was an event we were prepared for. I raised my attack, special attack, speed, and defense before spamming Ice Beam. This Nuzlocke was a blind run, and I still don't fully understand which moves are special and which are not, but still, I won. Just as I was going to the altar, one last intruder tried to destroy not only my wedding, but my campaign to unite all scattered lands of Hoenn. Stephen had finally grew up here and he challenged me to a battle. Dusclops predicted that my wedding day would be a sunny one, so I knew that Buddha's fiery wrath would be even fiercer. The mere sight of Metagross made me almost stain my undies and pants in brown, but Buddha was not planning on losing any battles. I hadn't known what this abomination was, so I panicked and tried to set up a sunny day. I'm sorry, Dusclops, you shall not be forgotten. Hegel flew above the earthquakes as I tried to find the most efficient way to kill this monstrosity. Next one was Armaldo, so I sent out Camillo to battle it. I don't know why I thought this was the best move I could do, but luckily it worked. Though, we were not ready for this disgusting perversion. Camillo was dead. Tu sei l'oscurità, I whispered to Stephen. Tu sei un mondo senza luce, dove I fiori possono solo morire. Buddha's flames were empowered by my sadness, but the opposing dildo was not a grass type. Hegel struggled against this ugly thing, and we were able to bring it down. I was so proud of Hegel. It even took down Agron. Correction. Almost took it down. Sly Steven taught this thing Thunder, and my third Pokemon was killed in this battle. Buddha rushed out of the Pokeball to avenge all fallen patriots that have died for our cause, and Steven's cry grew weaker and weaker as flames licked his bones. May and I got married that day. The rest of our enemies surrendered soon after, and Hoenn was finally united. We lived happily ever after, and during my reign, Hoenn became one of the strongest nations in the world. I hope that I was remembered as a strict but a just man whose love towards his homeland was unrivaled. I might have been cruel, but it was for a greater cause.